Okay, so Nebula's latest report, and the title is ESG Unwrapped, Building a Sustainable Channel Community. I think the sort of headline finding is that it suggests that the status quo is no longer an option. Channel players actually who want to unlock full potential of business advantages need to embrace or understand that ESG strategies can deliver. So yeah, if you can perhaps just expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, of course, Phil. So from a Nebula perspective, we're very much early on our ESG journey ourselves. So the whole premise of the ESG Unwrapped initiative that we've put together was very much sort of to bring together a lot of our learnings in terms of setting up the journey ourselves from an ESG sustainability perspective. So obviously we're a channel services business, so we're part of that sort of channel services value chain, if you like. So yeah, being a very much partner-led industry that we're in the technology channel, what we found is that because there's no real framework, especially in the UK, in terms of how to start your ESG journey and how, yeah, what metrics are you going to record? What value do those metrics bring into your ecosystem of partnerships and customer base? So for us, we sort of stripped it right back to the very bare bones, if you like, to understand, right, if as Nebula we're looking to, yeah, we sort of, if you like, we're positioned sort of in a nice bungalow today, and that bungalow's got bungalow type foundations, but actually we're wanting to build very much a hotel on that same plot. And to do that, we need to build deeper and stronger foundations for us to grow on and to expand on. So what we felt was we wanted to bring together, yeah, to share sort of free to view information, if you like, and interview a number of our sort of partners in that whole network of some people are more advanced on their ESG journey, and some are just starting out. And because the channel's made up primarily of SME businesses, if you like, many companies in the channel don't have a dedicated ESG resource. So that they don't have a sustainability lead or an ESG evangelist in their business. It's actually done primarily in a job share scenario. So there's a number of people that are looking to deliver that piece of business. So that whole ESG thing was for us to try and capture our experience in that initial report that we've released, and but more importantly, make that free to view for the rest of the channel ecosystem to access, and hopefully they might pick up some tips and some useful guidance on how they might get started. Because we always say, yeah, the channel's only as strong as the weakest link in that chain. So if we've got to bring and drag everybody on together. This isn't a competition type framework. This is very much about I suppose cooperation and collaboration in terms of helping one another on that journey. So really that's where ESG Unwrapped sort of was born, and we're looking to evolve this as we go from our own experiences, but more importantly, bringing in experiences of the wider channel.
And I believe you assembled, or you say you talked to a group of sustainability experts in particular, right across the technology sector, who all seem to have the sort of common view, or the call that the channel does need to, I don't know, refine or even redefine their approach to sustainability, basically to deliver a bigger impact. So I suppose, does it say what's going wrong now, and also what, I suppose, which direction does it need to head in, I suppose?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think from our perspective, we put together this what we've called our Net Heroes section of the report, which was very much about um, aligning with that sort of thought leadership and those people who are probably a little bit more advanced on their journey, and understanding what what they've learned on the way and some of those mistakes, and what should people new on their journey look to avoid, and that type of thing. But I think for the first time in over 20 years I've been involved with this industry, I think what I'm finding from ESG in particular and sustainability as a whole is it's probably the most collaborative, transparent, and authentic um, partnership way of working that I've seen before. Because generally, when we're talking about technology in the space, it's very guarded and it's very much of the barriers are up, if you like. And I think with the good thing about ESG and sustainability, what I'm finding is because everybody's pretty much on a similar level playing field, apart from some of the big companies, of course, but from an SME perspective, we're all sort of in that sort of same boat, if you like. So what we're finding is as we talk more to more experiences from people across the channel, is people are very open and very they're very accepting of being approached to sort of share those experiences. So yeah, the net hero section is probably been one of the most insightful aspects of that, because this report in particular is broken down into I thought it's important because ESG is only as I suppose is only as I suppose powerful as the people driving it. It's very much a people-led initiative, in my opinion. So I think it's really important that people have something they can relate to from different perspectives, and I think that's what comes across with the Net Hero piece. And what's interesting is people who've read the Net Hero sort of interviews, if you like, and those shared comments. There's more people now want to be involved with the next version of the report, and that so it's almost in a fluid manner. The ESG Unwrapped initiative is sort of forming its own path, if you like. It's so the next one we might talk about will be touching on more the S of ESG, more the social. So there's a lot of thing around social value and social impact and everything else. So it's sort of almost creating its own journey ahead of itself, if you like, from people getting involved. But this is very much about a people-driven exercise rather than something that's focused more around sort of compliance and governance and sort of strict frameworks, because that only works for a certain subset of businesses in our industry. If we look at things like the SBTIs, there's a lot of SMEs who can't commit to a lot of those aspects, but what they can do is align to science-based initiatives. So they don't necessarily have to sign up to them, but they can align to them, for example. So they start talking the same language, and they start being able to put their own sort of KPIs in place to show those, I suppose, that sort of marginal gain. I think this is all about little and often. I think it's all about celebrate those small successes, because each small success that you achieve turns into sort of has a bigger impact in the broader partner ecosystem.
And I mean, did you bump into any sort of opposition or folks that, I mean, I can remember conversations not that recently, but a couple of years back, where people in the channel were saying, what's sustainability got to do with us? No one's interested. Hopefully that attitude's improved. But I said, did you find any sort of negativity, or as you alluded to, the fact that everyone's sort of still kind of keeping their cards very close to their chest and not really wanting to share and talk about it? Or do you think in the main everyone is sort of understanding it's a common goal and opening up?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point, Phil. I think one aspect of this is when we talk about sustainability, it's very much has been led in the last few years around the E. So it's very much around sustainability is all linked to environmental issues, right? And that's not the case. E is one aspect of it, and an important aspect, obviously, from a carbon and decarbonisation perspective. But what actually, in my opinion, sustainability is about, it's about just running a good business. it's about running a good business on the right ethics. It's about being transparent. It's been about being authentic and actually delivering what you say you're going to deliver, and also building a business that is sustainable for for the people within that business, but also it's supporting a much more impactful ecosystem of partnerships as well. So I think what you're finding now is I think there's a lot of wind was taken out the sails around the E because a lot of people focused on the decarbonisation aspects and partnering with looking to offset their carbon impact and what their journey to net zero looks like, and which are all really credible and things we should be really driving as part of it. But also what you're doing around the social impact, what you're doing about the DE and I aspects of your business and the community that you serve. So we've seen a big push around the S now in terms of what people are doing to make a real positive impact in their own communities, and that's communities that might be close to where the offices are based of organisations, or it might be in communities of those communities that they serve for the end client, right? So I think that collaboration of the social impact is really taking shape as well. And if we look at the UK and European market, we're very good at the E. We're sort of probably the most innovative and making the most impact in terms of the E, and especially in the UK from an environmental perspective. And it's where can we take that even further as we go forward. But then if we look at somewhere like the US market, E's not high on their agenda. E is very much lower down the agenda, and that's got quite a big political aspect to that as well over in the US. But actually, where they are advancing really well is around the S. So the S and what they get involved with their sort of social impact and their communities they serve, they're doing some really good stuff there. So, and I think the G, our industry's always been quite good at the G. If we think of ISO frameworks and we think of frameworks for public sector and that governance section, we've always been pretty good at. So I think we've always we've come from the world of the G, and I think we're just trying to balance how we can put a mechanism in place on how we can keep progressing with the E and the S in the same way we have with the G for many years, in my opinion. So yeah, I think it's I think we're in that position where there's a lot of plates to spin, especially for SME businesses, where and you need real ambassadors. You need people who are sort of agents of change, who are passionate about these different aspects of ESG. And the G, people have always had compliance managers and people leading all that because there was a commercial aspect to having good quality governance in your business. So I think what we're seeing now is the S is being driven across all departments within a business. It could be coming from HR, it could be coming from marketing, it could be coming from sales, or the customer support team. The S is really driven across the whole business, and I think the E is doing an aspect of that as well.
And I'm just wondering, in terms of the sort of actions from the report, as Nebula, are you setting yourselves up as wanting to coordinate this sort of collaboration, knowledge sharing, etc., or do you think it'll happen organically? I guess, just to understand how the collaboration and stuff will you help drive it, or just expect people to sort of naturally understand it and get on with it?
Yeah, I think like everything that's new, it always starts with you need your key advocates in that market to really, I suppose, help educate and help infuse and help onboard sort of a broader community. And we always reference that the channel as being very much a community, and communities are driven by people, and communities are driven by sort of people who are passionate about certain topics, and to make change in any community, you need to have authentic and transparent results. You need to be setting goals that are achievable. You need to be celebrating the success of achieving those goals when you do, and those goals don't have to be what you're going to do by 2050. What you're going to do this year, what you're going to do in the next quarter, and sort of really break it down. So for us at Nebula, when we started the ESG journey sort of last year, we very much focused on a great starting point for us after taking a lot of advice and listening to a lot of other experiences, was we've aligned ourselves to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So for us, we did a materiality assessment out to our leadership team, our team members, our sort of delivery partners, and our customers. And from the surveys that we shared with those communities and the information we got back, we aligned to three sort of sustainable development goals. So those three are very much aligned to what our business and the community we serve are really much focused in today. So those three are very transparent. They're on our website. So we explain why we've chosen those ones. And we've also, what we found from that process, it was very enlightening, because actually from the ones that were selected, there was ones there that some of us probably wouldn't have chosen. But actually, when we broke it down and why those were chosen through the surveys that we partaked in, that was very evident that actually there's a simple reason that a lot of the things we're already doing today and a lot of the positive things we're doing aligned really nicely to a number of the sustainable development goals that we chose. So that enabled us then to put really defined targets over the next year or two of things we're going to commit to. So for example, one of those is around a community charity called Share in Wokingham, close to our HQ. And that's very much about reducing food waste and supporting around 2,000 people a week in the local community by stopping food waste going to landfill. And that saves about 40 tons of food waste a month in terms of redistributing fresh food. So that's fruit, veg, dairy, bread, that type of thing. So that means we dedicate one day a month for the Nebula team to go and support and to help distribute that at the charity in Wokingham. So that's a really big thing for our social values and something we're really passionate about. But another example is one of the targets we've put in place there is, okay, well, as we're part of the value chain, the channel value chain, in terms of delivering a service for resellers, MSPs, and the likes, what can we do actually to help them record their Scope 3 emissions? So one thing we're looking at and what we're piloting today is for us to capture the journey information that goes from the engineer going from their home to the customer site to do an installation or a maintenance job. And we then need to know sort of what their mode of transport is. And so if we can capture that information, we know what the carbon impact is of that delivery mechanism. So then we make that available to our channel partners. They can then make it accessible to their end clients. So especially in public sector, right? That's a huge thing. If they can start really tracking the Scope 3, where most emissions actually sit, in our marketplace, then if we can start sharing that, we can then sort of start saying, okay, well, we know what the carbon impact of delivering that project was, right? Instead of doing offsetting, can we dedicate some resource to do a carbon removal of that project so it becomes carbon neutral or even carbon positive? Now that's where it gets really interesting. So that's some of the things where you've got to deliver on what you promise, and but you then celebrate those sort of successes as and when you do them. And I think it's important that we share that information across, so it gives other people inspiration to actually go and do what's relevant to their business as well. Because I don't think there's enough. I don't think there's enough sort of evidence out there of what people are actually doing. There's been a bit of offsetting and stuff and planting trees in the past, but actually, how can you make a real difference to that scope 3 emissions in that value chain, which is what the channel's about, right?
Yeah, so the report, I mean, one of the objectives is for it to act as a bit of a guide for SME businesses in terms of their own ESG strategies, and presumably it highlights, as you've given the examples there, the advantages of ESG, and I believe also, I mean, because everyone always thinks these things cost money rather than saves, but I think in the report it does highlight that you can actually help drive revenues as opposed to being a cost. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've got responsibility as an industry, right? We've yeah. When you look at the statistics out there, the IT industry, I think, is now overtaken the airline industry in terms of its impact on the environment. So, but obviously, technology has a huge part to play in the evolution of society, and there's a lot of positive aspects of technology that we need to embrace. But what we can't do is sort of give with one hand and take even more with the other, right? And I think it's about getting that balance. And I think if we can start getting the mindset of making those sort of incremental changes, and if everybody in that value chain does their little bit, it equates to something big. And so yeah, at Nebula, we're very much of the mindset of, we can't do this on our own, guys. We're bringing some ideas and some fresh ideas into the market, and hopefully that'll be well received. But we're not going to charge you for those things. That's a value add, and that's something that we want our business to be aligned to. The old ways of consuming technology have gone. We can't be precious minerals around where we're putting things to landfill. We've talked about that for a number of years now. But I think it goes beyond that now. I think it goes beyond, we need to put the mechanisms in place where people are happy to have a laptop, for longer than 3 years. That the laptop might be lasting 7 years. And actually that laptop might be swapped out for another refurbished laptop during that period. So we've got this, it's almost like when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, you just made do and you made do amend, right? You had this. So sustainability isn't new. We just forgot how to be sustainable in probably in the last 30 years. So I think we need to go back to that way of sort of, when something's broken, it can be mended. But where we've been in an industry where it's been very vendor led in the past, and that whole channel mechanism is on a 3-year refresh cycle of bringing new product into that refresh. They want to get rid of the old. Those days have gone. So vendors are now having to pivot their business to say, okay, we need to very much align to what the end client's demanding, what outcomes they're demanding. And I think that's now those vendors that are sort of leading the way and understanding the need more of a refurbished market. They need those sort of product life cycles to be extended. The need consumption of tech needs to be done with it in a more responsible manner, where the elements of that tech is sourced needs to be more responsible. So I think we're very early on the journey, and from the large vendors are very early on that journey themselves, because the manufacturing aspects of technology is another ball game altogether, right? So, but that's where it starts. That's where the process starts. So we all have our part to play, but it's all relative to the size of business we are.
And do you worry at all that, I mean, the sort of the wider world, I think everyone accepts that climate change is happening, but there is quite a significant sort of whether it's just the fossil fuel industry or others, trying to obfuscate or pretend it's maybe not as serious as, do you worry at all that there's pushback, or do you think everyone, well, certainly the channel has really understand is committed, or do you think there are still a few people dragging their feet thinking, well, depending on which government gets in or whatever, we might be able to sort of hang on with the old way of doing things a bit longer, or do you think that that's no longer the case? Everyone has worked out they have to go in this new direction.
Yeah. Look, change is on the way. There is no planet B, right? It's we're on this planet and we've got to look after it the best we can, and you don't have to be an eco warrior to understand that, and for our future generations. So I think it's much higher on the agenda these days, from a positive aspect. I also think with further legislation coming down the line in the next few years, businesses have to do this. This isn't something that's just going to go away like the Millennium Bug did in 2000. This is literally, this is not going away, guys. We've got to get control of this. So, and everyone can play their part in that. It's not, I'll wait for the big guys to do their thing and I'll catch up in X number of years. I think what businesses should be looking at here is how this can be a real differentiator for your business. So by you having a sustainable play, by you having an ESG proposition around how you can add value into that supply chain in that channel, that's a real differentiator. That's you're not differentiating on capability or technical know-how, or this is actually a whole new ball game and opportunity for businesses to really embrace this, and that's what we're doing at Nebula. We're very passionate behind this, so it's not just this isn't just a marketing campaign. This is led by the top. The leadership team. We're bought into this and we're committed to this. So for us, it's about us sort of our purpose is all around us source local, source responsible, and source ethical with our own ecosystem of technical experts around the world that we sort of bring together to build solutions and deliver projects. So we want to be in a position where we can say in a few years' time, everybody who delivered that project or maintained that contract, regardless of where they were in the world, were within a 20-mile radius, for example, of the customer site. So that means from a social impact, investment stays within that community, which I think is really important for that community to sort of enhance itself. But also it has the carbon impact of obviously less travel that is there. It means there's less impact on the planet and the environment. So that's just two examples of things where we're still utilizing the same network that we've had for a number of years, but we're just changing the narrative of how we position that, because actually that's the real value to our supply chain in terms of capability is important, but actually what if we can deliver these aspects for you, Mr. Customer, as well?
Yeah, and I guess one other thing to mention about the report, I think it also includes a sort of, I think it's a 9 or 10 point guide to how people can start the journey. So I mean, I won't put you on the spot unless you want to tell me all 10 steps, but if you can perhaps just give some sort of flavor as to for folks who are acutely aware of what they need to do, and just some bits of advice as to how to go about it, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, this being the first report of the ESG Unwrapped initiative, if you like, and as I've said before, where it goes, who knows? And it's, while the appetite's there, we will keep investing our time and resource into sharing this information. But that sort of 10-step guide that you referenced there, Phil, that is very much based around our own experience. So this is things that we didn't know about until we started on our journey last year. So what we've tried to do is make it an easy 10-step guide to getting started with ESG. So for those that are new to it, and especially around the SME space, there'll be a lot of things in there that people won't know today, and that hopefully will help them, guide them on their journey. And that's not saying this is the the gospel of how to do ESG. It's just here's a 10-step guide of things that might be useful for your business. People who are a bit further on their journey, there might be some other aspects hopefully in there that they haven't thought about, that they can enhance their journey or they can accelerate it a bit quicker, because there's some sort of information in there that they can embrace and integrate into their business. So there's no real sort of prescribed formula, if you like, but what we've tried to do in the 10-step process is share the learnings that Nebula have sort of taken on board as part of our journey. And very much this is where I think it's important for us now is almost this becomes a bit of a diary of our own experience and our own partners' experiences, because I think as soon as you make it about, like I said before, people, and you make it about your own experiences, people tend to be a lot more engaged than it just being a high-level white paper. So, on carbon emissions and how scope 3 is so complex, they're talking about scope 4 now, for example. Well, what does that mean? Well, I don't know. I'm no expert, so I don't know. So for us, it's as we gather that information, is what can we do to help support? Because as a channel services business, it's our job to share information about latest technology, latest service offerings. But I think now it's also our responsibility to share some insights about some positive experiences we've had around ESG as well.
Okay, we covered some fascinating ground and some brilliant insights as to what's going on both at Nebula, but also ESG across the industry. So really enjoyed chatting, Richard. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
No, thank you, Phil. It's been good to chat.